This is Coda Radio, episode 514 for April 17th, 2023. Hey friends, welcome back to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Oh, coming in nice and healthy, clear.
I know, nice and hot. You know, I've been hanging out with some of the great medical minds, and you may be surprised to know, greatest Magic the Gathering planeswalkers in the U.S.
I was thinking this morning I hadn't gotten a real solid Magic the Gathering update since you and I gathered, so I'm glad to hear you're still enjoying it.
Hopefully this is my first week back since I was ill. I kind of had to drop it.
I see. You didn't want to spread the plague to your fellow players.
No, of course not.
There's honor among Magic the Gathering.
They're the most honorable people I know. Now, hygiene, questionable sometimes. But no, I've discovered a YouTube channel, and I've been sending you the videos, and my cat just is attacking the microphone right now. Hi, cat. Can you go away?
See, this is why I prefer the pod dog. He just lays over there in the corner with a blanket. You wouldn't even know he's in here. He's just silent.
They're nuts. We talk a lot about AI on here now. AI generated Obama, W, Biden, every once in a while Ben Shapiro.
Donnie.
No Jordan Peterson, though. It's a weird pull for Ben Shapiro.
Well, maybe they'll work it in. You never know.
Oh, and Billy Boy Clinton.
Oh, and don't forget Big Don.
Big Don. How could I forget Big Don? For instance, the ex-presidents go and bust Big Donnie out of jail. It's hilarious.
You know how Idiocracy, I don't know if you've ever seen Idiocracy, but
Yes.
It's kind of becoming like the reality of the world. I think this could be like the next Idiocracy, where it's like inevitably the presidency comes down to like a reality TV show. And you're voting the president off the island.
It's kind of nuts. You have to watch it. There's another, of course, the gateway drug was a video that came up because I was watching Star Wars videos to prepare myself for Sith Acolyte. And it is another AI dub of Obama turning to the dark side against the Jedi Council that's run by JFK, because of course it is. And it's kind of crazy. It has the same cadence of the way he would always talk. He still talks right kind of, yep. And now that's what we're doing.
Huh.
It's super, a little scary, because wow.
Yeah.
But funny as hell.
Yeah. We should we'll put a link in the notes.
We'll put a link. And I just want to say, whoever wrote this, the idea that Bill Clinton would be the one to say, but guys, if they can lock up little Donnie, they could come for any of us. Seems about right, doesn't it?
Oh man, my weekend. Oh, that was like the highlight of the weekend for me, because the rest of my weekend, well, not only was it just filled with, like various home issues, like problems like with water lines and problems with slides and all that, but it was the boy's 14th birthday this weekend, Oh,
congratulations.
I know. Can you believe 14 years?
I can't believe it's been that long.
So his favorite food, one of his favorites, what he tells me his favorite food is my smash burgers that I make on a griddle. And I thought, well, we'll make the boy some burgers because we got a nice day out, and I have a griddle and I got it all set up. I had to take it out and get it all, refurbed on it, and got the meat from the cow that we bought and had it stored away in the freezer, got that defrosted, and I got it all seasoned up, and I just kind of got all like, just into my routine. But it'd been so long that the burgers weren't good, Mike. They were like meatloaf burgers. You know what I mean? They're not thick like meatloaf, but the flavor of meatloaf, you don't want that in a burger. You want that in meatloaf. And I blew it. I had bad burgers, Mike. I had bad burgers. So I gotta.
It happens when you freeze the meat too long. That's a risk.
I gotta stack that W. I gotta fix that. I gotta work on my burger game. So that's what I'll be doing for the next few weeks. Is
as well you should.
Everything else is on hold. Everything else on hold except for the meetup in Olympia on Saturday the 29th. That's still gonna happen. But let's read some feedback, because we got a hot tip from several members of the audience. Thank you, everybody who sent this in. The first one that I saw was from Patrick. And Patrick wrote in, hey guys, Chris mentioned on episode 513 using VS Code for text snippets since Text Expander doesn't work on Linux. And Text Expander is a really handy app that lets you use a quick code anywhere, any code you can come up with on your keyboard, and it will then dump a whole lot of text, a little bit of text, variables, whatever you might have some code. It'll just pop it right in there as if you just pasted it from your clipboard, but it's even more advanced than that. And there's also a community of snippets that have created a bunch of expansions. They have a sync service. You can sync all those between your machines. It's a pretty handy app. It's a paid-for app, though. Well, Patrick says, I heard about Espanso from another podcast, and I'm about to switch to it for my business Macs. Check it out. You might find it useful, espanso.org. Enjoy the show. Take care, and glad you're better, Mike.
Thank you.
It might have been one of my shows, maybe, because I have actually talked about Espanso before. I just totally forgot about it.
This is really neat.
Yeah.
So it is basically Text Expander.
Yeah, for Mac, Linux, and Windows. I have to check. I don't remember if it supports Wayland or not. That might have been why I didn't end up using it, but it looks really great. So I'm definitely going to check it out again after the show because I really find it useful. I have been using snippets still in VS Code, but the reality is Text Expander brings it to every application on your computer, and Espanso would as well. And that's really handy.
Yes, but see, there's a flaw. This is a great tip, but resisting the VS Code hive mind is basically futile.
I know. Trust me.
I find myself drafting, every once in a while, you got to write a long email for accountants, lawyers. Tis the time of the year where I go into a deep depression.
Oh, God, yes.
Yes. And it needs to be just so. But luckily with ChatGPT, and I call it Clippy, but it's really CodePilot, it looks like you're trying to you're trying to minimize your taxes and ask your accountant if this is deductible. Would you like me to order you some liquor on Uber? Because we all know what she's going to say.
One of the things that would genuinely improve the quality of my life is if I could have legitimate answers on what is legal to do, what is not legal to do, because what I've always done is just kind of done the minimum for any kind of tax advantages that I might be able to take. I just have always done the minimum because I don't want a red flag. I don't understand what I can and can't do, but I know that I could be living a much more comfortable life and probably doing more with the business if I could leverage the legal tax advantages or whatever might be out there. And if ChatGPT could actually answer that and not just give me this, well, I'm not a lawyer, and give me all this couching crap, I would really appreciate that. I would because I cannot go hire a business lawyer and then basically ask him, is this illegal or is this illegal? I'm just not going to do that.
It also changes.
Yeah, that too.
I'm sure there's the dramatic changes between when Trump was president and Obama. The Jobs Act alone, right, changed a lot. For instance, I think at the level you and I buy hardware, the fact that up to a certain point, I think it used to be the case, you don't have to amortize it over 5 years anymore. But the only up to a certain point and in certain cases, it's crazy. That's why I have an accountant. Right? I don't know. To me, it's so Byzantine. It's what's the difference between a hardware, great example. Servers are a whole category I have because goddamn Linode, great sponsor, but you're killing me.
Do you have a lot of Linodes?
I was with Dio. I have both Dio and Linode, and they're neck and neck now. But there's years of Dio.
Yeah,
right? I have things running that I'm pretty sure are Objective J things, not even Objective C, but Cappuccino products I tried out. But I'm so afraid to delete the wrong server.
Yeah,
yeah. So one day I need to audit that. But
I do have quite a bit of Linodes myself.
Well, they're so cheap, right?
We pare them down over time, and sometimes we'll take one that seems to be the one, for whatever reason, and we'll kind of beef that one up, and then we'll kind of move services onto that one over time. But a lot of times when we're trying something new or it's something that's going to be dedicated to the community, there's a lot of advantages just to creating a dedicated Linode for it.
This is welcome to the Docker Power Hour, and this is kind of where I was going with this. I used to love Heroku, and I still like Heroku, but their pricing changes have become a wee bit aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
Considering, one, there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot going on over there right now. There are probably better choices. Fly.io is also expensive, in my opinion, but they are, I would say, a more modern take on Heroku, that they're literally built on Docker, and you could just toss them a container and they'll figure it out. but I'm still living that Doku life, right? I just spin up a Dio or a Linode instance. I install Docker and Doku, and bam, I have my own little Heroku in a box. And Dave over here, he's doing his Ruby dev or whatever he's doing, Python, and he doesn't need to know kind of the IT infrastructure. He does a git push, bam, and now I've gotten even fancier where I do a GitHub action. So we don't even have to worry about like getting people's SSH keys up on the server. You just merge into usually a branch called staging, and it's a little slower because I guess the action has to trigger, but like within a minute or two, it just redeploys, and you can use a YAML file or the I forgot the other format, but I just use YAML to be like run my migrations, do whatever cleanup you need to do, kill any worker processes and restart them. Literally for, let's say, $10 a month, I get like 2 instances on Linode, or 1 depending on how I'm doing the database stuff, and that's it. Where the Heroku equivalency is now pretty. I mean, their hobby tier is 7, I think 7 or 8, but it's really not super useful. So you have to go up one, and it's like 20. And there's a lot of stuff, right? You can't access really the file system because it's ephemeral on Heroku, where on Linode or any other host like that, it's an Ubuntu box, right? Yeah, I don't know. There's my commercial for an open source project called Doku.
And the fact that it's an Ubuntu box means you can get in there, you can do your troubleshooting, right? Like that's massive in those moments of anger where you're trying to get something running again. And I remember distinctly, Mike, when this show started, there was that strong kind of developers versus sysadmins kind of divide. And then the world of DevOps took over. And it's really it's really at its ultimate peak with GitHub Actions. It really blows my mind when I make a change to a markdown file in a JB GitHub repo, and then that change gets reviewed and published. In the back end, a GitHub action kicks off that rebuilds a bunch of stuff, sends it over to our Linode, rebuilds Hugo on our Linode, and redeploys a brand new version of our website all in seconds, just because I changed some markdown in a repo, and then it got approved. It's really something, and it's so going to get replaced by AI. It's not even funny. I mean, when do I say that? I don't normally come on here and say jobs are going to get replaced by AI. I never have, but it's so clearly going to be one of these situations where you go to your assistant, your GPT agent, and you say, deploy WordPress on a Linode, and it's going to do all of it. Provision me a system that has 96 gigabytes of RAM, 48 cores, running Matrix with the Ansible playbook that is popular in the community, and deploy that in the New Jersey region, and enter. And it will just do all of that.
Now, does it pay the protection money for you, though? The Jersey.
That'll be the other AI agents that come out.
Veto.ai. It's here for you.
Linode.com/coder. Go there to get $100 in 60-day credit on a new account, and it's such a great way to support the show while you are checking out fantastic, fast, reliable cloud hosting. You got to try it for your next project. I can say that confidently because that's what we've been using since we've gone independent like over 3 years ago now. Brand new stuff we deploy, stuff we deployed at the very beginning, stuff we've re-architected and upgraded, all that kind of stuff we didn't expect to grow as crazy as it grew. All of that has been on Linode. And the machines just keep getting faster and better. Some of my rigs just automatically got upgraded to NVMe storage. So like the throughput is incredible, and you can now provision rigs with that from the start. They're adding a dozen new data centers. They already have 11 around the world. They're just investing like crazy in their core infrastructure all the time. Each machine has a 40 gigabit connection to the internet. They are their own ISP. And Linode has been rolling out some one-click deployment clustered solutions now. They're starting with a focus on databases. So if you want to deploy like a clustered Mongo or Postgres or Redis or others, they have a setup that you can go through that is just answer a couple of questions, and then you've got a fully clustered database solution. And their setup gives you like a nice JSON output of what's going on and the configuration information. It's so useful. The performance, the reliability, and then you combine it with the actual human being support. It's such a great combination. And then at the end of the day, you get to log in. You can SSH and troubleshoot something and look at a log or debug something. You have access to all of that if you want it. You could build the system up from scratch if that's how you prefer it. So go get the $100, support the show, and try it out. It's really good. You got to see it for yourself. Linode.com/coder. That's linode.com/coder. So Gurman is reporting in his Power On newsletter, and Gurman generally has pretty good direct leaks, that Apple will enable, or at least lay the groundwork to start enabling actual application sideloading on iOS. And they're going to announce it in iOS 17 at WWDC.
Maybe, but no, right? I feel no is the answer here.
Yeah, you're feeling a strong, like, this isn't going to happen. Stop trying to make this happen.
Well, even if it happens, I think there's a little bit of a misnomer, and it is not going to be the free-for-all that you all want it to be, right? Because Apple already won this fight. Even the limited sideloading and or I should say limited alternative payment solutions that, what was her name? Judge Daniels, right?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. If I'm wrong about the judge's name, it doesn't really matter. That minor victory, they are still able to get their 30%, and it just creates a huge, I don't know, accounting burden. What do you want to call it, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that they're going to ever give up that money because it's money. What I could see that would make sense is, like, it is stupidly annoying to do enterprise deployments right now. It used to be better, and then there was all that nonsense with the certificates, and I think like Ars Technica wrote an article about it, and Apple freaked out. I could see them maybe backing off of that a little bit and going for a more, if you're an enterprise, it'll be almost like app notarization is on the Mac. You still got to go through them, but for your internal stuff, they don't care, and less of that pain in the butt MDM stuff. But you're just never going to get your full Wild Wild West, welcome to the Cydia store, download your Pokemon emulators, right? In fact, we have a related story on store management where Microsoft kicked out of the Xbox store the Dolphin GameCube emulator and a bunch of other kind of older system emulators, and deleted them off of your machine. So,
wow.
Or at least disabled them. So just a reminder, you don't really control these devices.
Yeah, right.
I only put this story in our doc or in our chat because it got lots of traction and people sent it to me. But I feel like it's, in a way, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And I think it's just, it's not going to be something that the average iOS user is going to take advantage of, or the average like indie iOS developer.
Yeah, I agree. I've been trying to think, how has Apple kind of done this in the past? And they have, of course, like you mentioned, you touched on the MDM enterprise stuff where enterprises have some limited ability to create their own certs and deploy their own apps. And then, of course, there's Test Flight. I've probably got 3 or 4 apps on my iPhone that are actually installed via Test Flight, where the app hasn't officially been approved by the App Store. And then, of course, on the Mac, they have Gatekeeper, where you can have Gatekeeper in different modes, where you can install an app outside the App Store, but it has to have a verified certificate. Or you can do like that third level, which requires like extra steps, but is no certificate. And what's kind of adding credence to this leak is the EU's Digital Markets Act, which went into effect on November 1st of 2022 and requires, quote, gatekeeper companies to open up their services and platform to other companies and other developers. And so I guess the logic is, because Apple has to comply with this DMA Act, they're going to have to just write the code anyways. So they're going to do a hard pivot, and they're going to do it their way before U.S. lawmakers come up with, their own DMA equivalent that forces Apple's hand. It's like a preventative self-regulation move.
Right. So they'll do a little bit up front just to kind of duck the bullet.
Yeah. That, and also there have been a few times in iOS's history where Apple finally did the thing everybody thought they were never going to do. And I'm trying to think of a few examples, but you know what I mean? Like, that has happened. Apple, every now and then, every few years, every 5 years or so, capitulates on something that people thought would never happen.
Well, so there's two issues. Are they going to let you have some mechanism to sign apps outside of the App Store? Yeah, sure, right. I got to see that. Are they going to give up that sweet 30%? No. That seems...
Yeah, not without some sort of limitation that makes it essentially untenable, right?
I think the limitation is going to be what they already did, right? You have to do the reporting and blah, blah, blah. And, it's almost not worth it for most developers to even consider just not using an app purchase at that point.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny how we're getting this trickle of information before WWDC. It's either going to be a consequential WWDC or a total letdown. Because if they don't deliver on some of this stuff now I want a new iPhone that is actually worth purchasing in a recession. I want iOS 17 to support sideloading. And I want, while we're at it, let's go USB-C.
I sense disappointment.
All right. Well, I'm wondering if you sense disappointment around Amazon's new Code Whisperer. This was a request we got from the Matrix chat room to take a look at this. It's Amazon's competitor to GitHub Copilot. They write that Code Whisperer is, at least for the time being, free for individuals. GitHub Copilot now requires a subscription, which is $10 a month or $100 a year. You can use Code Whisperer inside VS Code, IntelliJ, IDEA, PyCharm, WebStorm, and AWS Cloud9. It's initially targeting Python, JavaScript, and Java. And you have to sign up for the free preview to try it before you can use the extension. But as of the recording of this episode, which is Monday the 17th, their sign-up link doesn't work. It goes to the equivalent of an Amazon 404. But then you can set up the extension. And all of this too, Mike, which is interesting, is under the AWS branding and site.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of makes sense, right? Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do this? I don't know. It's a little weird. They've definitely taken a more focused approach than good old
Copo,
Microsoft. Yeah, but I'm curious if people are really going to use this.
Yeah, and I guess why I don't initially like it is because I'm an old grumpy man now, and my first response is, do we really have to have every big tech company copy each other and make the same exact product? Do we really have to go down this route? Does it have to be this way? If Microsoft and Google have an AI system, will then Amazon and Apple have to have one? Does it have to be this way? Really? I'm just so sick and tired of it.
Yes, right? The answer is just yes.
I know. And I guess ultimately it's probably how we get the best product, but it just feels like these big five tech companies inevitably gobble up all the small businesses, all the staff, all the money, all the chip innovations, all of it, and they centralize it. And then what do they do with it? Nothing. Because none of them can execute beyond their core mission. And inevitably they just lay the staff off after a while.
Right. It's because the businesses at their scale need to be, it's like Mac would be a huge successful company if it wasn't also the sister product of the iPhone, right? The scale that they're operating at, everything needs to be a multi-billion-dollar slam dunk.
I know. So leave some of the meat to everyone else. Don't eat it all if you're already full.
I don't know. We've been doing this show for 12 years, man.
I know. That's not how it works. No.
Yeah.
I know, but it still grates on me. It's still. But at the same time, the thing that they're doing that's a little different here, right, is they're offering the first taste for free.
Yes. A tactic very popular in New Jersey as well.
Yeah.
But didn't GitHub do that too?
Yeah, initially, right? I could see this being Amazon, sort of like how Amazon bundles a lot of stuff into Prime. So they have a photo service and a music service and all of that, but nobody ever really talks about it. But if you're a Prime member, you just get that stuff, and it's kind of good. It's all right, right? So if Amazon can hit that note, well, you got AWS, and you're already using AWS Cloud9 as your IDE. So why not just also use Code Whisperer? I get it, but it seems so cynical and uninspired.
I don't know, right? They also have AWS, and I'm sure they're jealously looking about how easy Microsoft has been able to make Azure stuff via GitHub. And I'm pretty sure that this Code Whisperer is going to very much know lots of ways to do things on AWS and good old Python and JavaScript, right?
No kidding. Exactly. Oh, of course. That's where it's really going to be useful. And maybe this just creates more competition amongst these big five to spoil developers. Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
That would be great.
Yeah. But speaking of cynical, Elon has launched a new AI company. Now,
Of course he is.
let's keep in mind, out of a panic about the dangers of AI, Elon helped fund OpenAI, which has now led to the extreme panic we are seeing about AI. And so in response to the now new panic, he's creating another AI company called x.ai. And
The man loves that letter.
he's the only director.
Of course he is.
His family office secretary is, I think, also in there somewhere. The Financial Times said that Musk is hiring engineers and talking to Tesla and SpaceX investors to launch an AI startup to rival OpenAI. And according to the Financial Times report, which cited anonymous sources, so who knows, Musk has amassed thousands of GPU processors from NVIDIA, which I would imagine they probably do if he has a deal for Tesla self-driving.
Oh, Elon. You ever get the feeling that he's just like really mad at the OpenAI guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of times in Star Trek,
Oh, God.
when there's a time travel story,
It's Elon.
it ends up being like the people that were doing the time traveling that caused the very problem they're solving. You know what I'm saying? This is Elon now. Elon is so effing rich. He just created his own timeline through fiat. And now we have the very AI he was concerned about. And now he's going to create another AI company to battle that AI company. If he just would have done nothing at all, we wouldn't even be here right now, potentially. Or at least not yet. Do you see why I'm frustrated again? This is a frustrating episode for me. Like, these people.
Right. The flaw, dare I say, in your logic is Elon legitimately afraid of OpenAI, or is he mad that he doesn't control it?
I think he is legitimately afraid of AI because you can find interview after interview and quote after quote for him going back forever, panicking about AI for years and years, decade.
I could probably go through Elon's tweets for decades, or whatever form he was using back then, and find an argument for basically why my cat's the best and my dog's amazing. I don't know.
No. I think he legitimately is afraid of it. That's why he funded OpenAI to begin with. It's just, we're talking about this. What I've noticed, and I think I'd like to get into this a little bit further with you later, is this entire conversation is as if what the companies in the United States do and what the laws of the United States do affects the ultimate course of where this AI technology goes. It doesn't, right? At best, regulations and companies that have trust and safety boards that are reviewing and limiting what the AIs can say and do are just limiting what the AIs can say and do in the United States of America, because somebody could fork or create their own in Russia, or some lab in Ukraine where this actually does get created, or in China where this stuff's getting cloned and created at scale, and not have those same moral boundaries and not have those same limitations. And then that could just spread all over the internet because there's this technology called TCP/IP. It just seems just so obvious to me that, like, you can make all the laws you want and you can make all the rules about what your AI can and can't say and do, but none of it matters. Like, none of it matters. Tailscale.com/coder. Go there right now to get it for free for up to 20 devices. And it's a great way to support the show while you are checking out a zero config VPN. Tailscale gets up and running in minutes on your devices. If you got 5 devices, you can probably get them all going in 3 minutes. I mean, seriously, it's so impressive how they have taken something as awesome as WireGuard and the noise protocol and made it this approachable, and also made it so easy to use on mobile devices. And Tailscale is perfect for developers who want to set up some ad hoc networking stuff for an app you might be building or testing. And you can rely on the encryption because it's built on WireGuard. That's the kind of stuff we've been waiting for this kind of level of application to come from WireGuard. And it's here now. You can quickly and easily create a secure network between your servers, your computers, your VPS devices, your mobile devices, your Raspberry Pis. I don't care. I don't judge. I got it on my Odroid running Nix. I got it on Raspberry Pis. I got it on my Home Assistant. I got it set up with subnet routing so I can even access devices that don't have the Tailscale app. And then I love the extra features like Tailscale SSH, which allows you to establish an SSH connection between your devices. That's so handy. And they've just rolled out a feature I didn't even know I wanted. And I'm really thrilled because I use the Linux Server IO Docker containers. These are just some nice, well-done containers. And if you have containers like media applications that need to share files across instances, they have some great stuff set up for that. And they have these mods that you can like add in a networking mod layer. And then all of the containers can take advantage of that. And Tailscale has just launched the Tailscale Universal Docker mod. So I can like snap this in to my existing Docker infrastructure that I already have deployed today. In just a few seconds, restart the container. And now all of my containers can be on my Tailscale network. And my network includes my other workstations and my laptops. So now I can access those containers from all of my computers, regardless of where I am, on one flat mesh private network. I love Tailscale so much. I'm telling you, it just keeps changing your game. I thought it was cool when I had no inbound ports on my firewall. Like that was great, right? But it's gone so much further than that. You got to try it out. You can try it for free on 20 devices, not a limited time deal. Just 20 devices, up to 20 devices. You get it at tailscale.com/coder. And then they got plans for more complicated setups and pro plans and lots of devices. Maybe you're a maniac and you got 100 devices, you're a business or something like that. They got you covered. Go check it out. tailscale.com/coder. So Auto-GPT is out. It's an open source attempt to make GPT-4 fully autonomous. It has internet access. It can do searches. It can follow up links. It supports long-term and short-term memory management. It uses GPT-4 instances for text generation. It can access popular websites and platforms. And it has file storage and summarization using GPT 3.5. You can run it locally in a Docker container or outside on your own machine. It does require an OpenAI API key, and you can run it without user authorization or interaction, 100% automated in what they call continuous mode, which is strongly not recommended, but you can do it. And that's Auto-GPT. And some demonstrations have been conducted that are kind of compelling. And it's capable of going out and figuring out what sites and services have APIs that it can access publicly and then begin integrating with them. And it has done like the ultimate promise of probably what the Echo or the Google Assistants were supposed to do, where you could interface with an API and actually create calendar appointments or create bookings. And it just sort of figures it out on its own. And it can also task other GPT agents that it's aware of, and you can configure which GPT instances it's aware of in its configuration settings. And then it can interact with those GPT instances to get the results it needs. And that's called auto-GPT. We are moving real fast here, Mike.
Yes, I think it's great.
And from auto-GPT comes Chaos-GPT. You probably have heard about this because it's getting a lot of coverage. Chaos-GPT is an AI tool that, quote, seeks to destroy humanity. It is an autonomous implementation touted as empowering GPT with the intent and memory to destroy humanity. It uses auto-GPT that I just mentioned, and once fired up, it lists its objectives to destroy humanity, establish global dominance,
very direct,
cause chaos, control humanity through manipulation, attain immortality, and it provided a plan to achieve each of these objectives. It set out to accomplish them and realized that its creator had fed it some inaccurate information. When it realized that because of that, its plans wouldn't work out, it came up with a new solution. It created a new GPT agent of its own, a helper agent with a separate personality that was more attuned to the job at hand. But that agent didn't provide the correct results either. So now Chaos-GPT is deciding to turn to a new alternative, and with its help of its creator, has set up a Twitter account and is trying to achieve its evil objectives by influencing people through Twitter. And of course, this Twitter account now already has, as of recording, 17,000 followers.
Great. I actually think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's, there's going to be all kinds of trolly like ChatGPT lookalikes. Microsoft kind of invented this, but good old Tay. And, well, then they perfected it with Sydney. Microsoft's got a crazy gal issue, if you think about it. I like it. I think
do too.
that's
It's
what
so
we
fitting.
need. It
So I
is
think-
really fitting. Yeah.
I think this Chaos-GPT is a good dose of reality. I mean, it is neat that it can do all these things, right? But this is a little toy that is playing the role it's supposed to play. But I think it'll help whip people up into perhaps a little bit of a fever that they'll maybe later realize was overblown. I think this is going to be a period of time where people are really going to swing from the fences. What I have noticed, we've watched on the stream, on the pre-show for the last few weeks, like the financial press television shows, and where they have a lot of people on talking about AI. All of the questions really center around what's scary, what keeps you up at night, what are you concerned about, and not what is its potential, what could it do for people, how could it be helpful, is it actually even useful, is this all hype? Those aren't the questions anymore. We've blown past all of that and right to how can we regulate this, how should we regulate this. I even saw suggested this morning, I'll put a link in the show notes, I saw it suggested this morning that all developers who touch any source code that is related to artificial intelligence should have to be licensed first.
This old chestnut back to haunt us.
Comes around every time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's so
Papers,
great.
please. Papers.
Man, we could have a bingo card at this point. All right, or whatever. Like if you had licensed developers before that, we can use this on your bingo sheet.
Oh, it's like every couple years we have to do this because
it's so dangerous. It's an existential crisis. We have to take action now before it's too late.
Those nasty developers are going to get us.
We, A, don't even know what it is. B, the general public can't even wrap their heads around it. They don't know if this is Skynet or if it's just, basically Siri with a bunch of marketing. Like, people don't even know what we need to make rules about or regulate. They can't even wrap their head around it. And I think perhaps something like Chaos-GPT is exactly what we need to move this conversation forward. So people can learn this thing is just, it's a scary chatbot, right? Like, if its creator hadn't connected it up to Twitter, it wouldn't be able to do this. If, the FBI raided his house and shut down his server, it wouldn't be able to do this. This is not actually a threat to humanity. No more so than some drunk idiot shouting, right? I mean, it's just, it's so funny, but I do kind of enjoy, just the trolliness of it. Just just all the, the Chaos-GPT and the trolling people and the fact that it's got 17,000 followers. I don't know.
It's weird though, right? It's so like panicky so quickly, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought last week it had gotten panicky, but then coming into it this week, it's at a whole other fever level. It's like red hot panic now. And what I've noticed too, Mike, is the tone has changed with the VCs.
Mm-hmm.
The VCs have gone from mega bulls to like pour money into it to like, we got to hit the brakes. This thing's a massive problem. And I've noticed it. Anybody who's got, I guess the other way to put this is what I have noticed is the more influence you have, the more power you have, the more money you have, the more you have to lose, the more this scares you. Because I think your lizard brain can detect there probably is something disruptive here. And anything that disrupts the norms is probably going to be deductive for people that are doing really well. And I think this type of stuff does have some potential. After having used it now for a few months in my day-to-day work, I am getting more done. And it's just, it is like I can summarize things faster. I can break things down in the show notes quicker. I can generate tags for podcasts quicker. I can iterate on titles and descriptions quicker. I can look into the background of kind of like really complex community issues and start at least getting a nugget of where to begin. It helps me start writing faster when I'm writing something down. Like if we need to write a little bit of a script, and I can't get started, I get the first paragraph from ChatGPT and then I'm off to the races. Like that kind of stuff is making me get more done, which is really, it's like it right now has been a effing cold glass of water in a desert. I have needed a little bit of extra help, and I'll take anything I can get right now. And it's that. So there's something there, and I think they recognize that. And if I, in a tiny little company, am getting more done with the free tooling Imagine how that's going to scale in enterprises over the years. Perhaps it does take a few jobs away. Maybe instead of a 15-person department, it's a 6 or 7 or 10-person department, right? Because it's not doing 100% of the work,
Right.
but it might collectively be doing some of the work, especially when you look at this auto-GPT stuff where you can string a bunch of different APIs and GPT agents together. And so if you are as they like to say, capital allocator, or what we call them, a VC or a degen, if you get power and influence through the amount of money, like it's common in a series A or B to get hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on your company size. Well, what if all of a sudden, instead of needing 100 employees, you need 70 employees, or you need 50 employees, or in 10 years, maybe you only need 8 employees? Well, now people aren't looking for $300, $400, $500 million. They're looking for $10 million. They're looking for $50 million. That makes these capital allocators or degens less important, less influential. It makes them less powerful. And that is throughout this entire ecosystem. And I think their lizard brains are detecting something's coming. And then if you're on the other end of the spectrum where you got less to lose, you've like me, you're in a desert. I think you're less afraid of it.
Yeah, I feel like there's always going to be ways to spend exorbitant amount of monies in startups.
That's true. You got to have great coffee machines and pickleball court and catered food.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I do find it a little hard to believe that these VCs are not going to want to jump on the bandwagon because of, who and what they are. But
yeah.
Lizard people.
We'll see. Right. I mean, I think yes. I think it's going to be a boondoggle. But right now, everybody's just worried that what they got is going to get taken, and so we're seeing the panic. I think. I mean, I really don't think this thing is going to bring down society. Not when you look at the kind of politicians we have running things, and they haven't brought down society. I don't think a chatbot that you can kill a process and turn off is going to take over society.
Fun will now commence.
But let's get to some boosts, because Mere Mortals podcast boosted in with a really handsome row of ducks. Look at this one over there. That one's got a cute little brown spot. They boosted in using Fountain to episode 513. I don't even know what headset you guys are talking about. Can you give a brief explanation of what it can do? Well, Mere Mortals, there's a rumor or two going around that Apple at WWDC is going to announce a VR type headset, a Quest kind of portable style headset that looks like maybe almost skiing goggles. And it may do AR, it may do VR. We'll see. Right? I mean, or it may be vaporware. Oh, how sweet would that be for you if we came on the air after WWDC and there was no headset? How sweet would that taste? Oh man, you'd be walking around, popping your collar.
That's right.
No name provided. 10,000 sats though. No name, but 10,000 sats using Cast-O-Matic. Read the Restrict Act. We're kind of effed on this one, guys. How did we lose this fight? Or how do we not lose this fight? You got to write your congressperson. Get on their contact pages. Try to get past the canned response. You probably get 2 years later. This Hill has shown that they don't understand technology or what their constituents want. And yes, I'm remaining nameless on purpose. Yeah, I feel like the Restrict Act lost a lot of momentum. Then it picked some momentum up when the Pentagon leaker came out, and now it's kind of, I think they've just let it sit so that way everybody calms down, and then they're probably going to sneak it through. I hope not, though, because it's a disaster. I mean, it would be a legitimate disaster. I think they would begin a new era of people who are essentially trying to push back against that stuff. I can't imagine there wouldn't be massive repercussions if the Restrict Act passed. Magnolia Mayhem comes in with 7,500 sats sent from the podcast index directly. How do I use ChatGPT? Mainly 2 ways. One, I use it to generate single paragraphs that I want to add to an episode and graph that into a script. For instance, on a recent episode, I'm talking about data sovereignty and brought up the Carrington event. Instead of doing all the research and losing my concentration, I just got GPT to throw me together a paragraph. I concentrated on the theme for manual writing later. Unfortunately, my desktop died, so I had to redo everything from memory eventually. God. That stinks, man. I also use it to write pseudo code. Then I translate that language to the one I'm writing at the moment. Something like, write me some code that gives me 2 points of a subtriangle 20% smaller than the image raster. It wasn't perfect, but it was absolutely easier than figuring it out myself, and it was actually educational. Now I could do that in any language, and he provides us with a link to the result. It's pretty great.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. I like how he also plays around with how much white space he has, like a true developer. Mick Lane comes in, with a big old handsome 17,955 sats.
Hey, rich lobster!
Coming in from the podcast index, this is his second boost of all time. And it goes to Coder Radio. Been listening since ages ago and learned about the reality of software development in the world of technology. Unfortunately, getting a Cobra Rotor tumbler shipped was too expensive, but I'm jealous. Thanks for the great show. Keep up the good work. Yeah, that international shipping killed.
Rough.
The tumbler is, I think, not so bad, but man, the robe. There are a couple of robes left, although I'm probably going to buy up the last of them eventually and start sending them out to the crew. But there are a few left for the audience over at the old Jupiter garage.
It's the only way to code.
User 44, or just walk around the house, let's be honest. User 44 wants some advice. And they said, I need advice. I buy personal laptops on a 7 to 10 year cadence, and it's time. Oh boy, is it time. So what I need is maximize battery life with the occasional dev Docker container setup. And no fan would be ideal. It needs to be able to drive a 40-inch 4K display.
Damn.
I'm leaning towards the M2, maybe an M2 Pro, but wasn't sure what x86-based competitors remain. That comes from the JB Hawk of Truth. It's great to see you, Hawk of Truth. That's a great question. It's hard not to recommend the M2 in that scenario, especially because if really good battery life is what you're going for, an x86 box with Linux can be tricky. I can get about 5 hours on my ThinkPad X1 Carbon. And if that's acceptable, I think that's a pretty good laptop. It does have a fan, but it doesn't kick in very often. Also, you might check the System 76 lineup of machines if you're looking at x86, because they have a couple of new refreshes over there, like the Pangolin, that are AMD based, that might also have better thermal characteristics. Though I don't know, I've never used one. I can't speak to it. Otherwise, it's when you say fanless and you want performance and you want battery life, you're kind of just limiting yourself to the M2.
Yeah, you've boxed yourself in pretty tight there.
Yeah, and I have to say, it is true that x86 systems feel old and hot after you've used the M2 stuff for a little bit. So there is that. We got a little message from Bond too, who hasn't listened for a while. I was just checking in, which is great. And then our last boost comes in from Faraday Fedora. Oh, and he's cooking a little bacon for us. Says, I love VR AR, but I think it's a very niche product, and I can't see it becoming more mainstream than the Oculus has. Much like you were saying with Web3, it seems like the new tech comes around and everyone with money sees if they can cram a square peg into a round hole, see if it's a viable business or option for them. And they could have just asked the youngest person in the room, would you buy this? And that would help them figure out if they're making a customerless product. True, although my kids effing love the Oculus. They love the Oculus. So
it is a neat toy.
Yeah. They use it. I don't use it much, but they sure do. That thing gets used still. Yeah, you're right, though, in the sense that they're just throwing money after bad product, trying to find a market fit, thinking, well, if I fund 10 things and one of them takes off and I make, 100x return, then I'm good. It's such a silly way of infinite expansion thinking. And it leads to a bunch of stuff getting dumped and the consumers having to sort through the noise because they all promote it like it's the next coming to save tech, to save your world. I mean, I'll mention it again, but look at the Echo products, right? We saw another round of news that more people from the Alexa division, Cancel, have been laid off.
That's rough.
Yeah. It's going to be a skeleton crew over there. And we were told that was going to change our lives and automate our homes. And now they're doing a bare investment into it. So that's what it is. That's why we kind of try to call it like we see it here on the program. When we think something has legs and is going to go somewhere, we'll tell you. And when we think something's hyperbole or panic or hype, we'll tell you. That's kind of the Coder Radio promise here at the Coder Radio program. All right?
That's right.
Thanks, everybody, for boosting in. If you'd like to send us a boost, couple of paths before you. You stand at a fork in the road. You can join the Podcasting 2 revolution and get a podcast app that is embracing the new standards at newpodcastapps.com, or I think now just podcastapps.com. That's pretty great. Or if you're in a long-term committed relationship with your dang podcast app, I understand. You don't have to switch. Just go get Albie at getalby.com, load it up with some sats, either directly in the app or from something like the Cash App, and then head over to the Podcast Index, podcastindex.org, and look for the Coda Radio program. And you can boost right in from their webpage, like several folks did this week. And of course, you can become a member if you'd like to send your fiat coupons instead of the Satoshi Sats. CoderQA.co. Sign up, and as a thank you, we'll give you an ad-free version of the show and the occasional thank you to our members with special content and things like that, and shout-outs and discounts on swag at CoderQA.co. It's a great way to invest in the ongoing production of this here pod. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you want to send the good people out there?
Just go check out alice.dev, and I'm on the Twitters and the Mastodons at Tumanuko, though I'm not too active.
Yeah, indeed. I'll send everybody to the Matrix. The chat room is always there. Coder.show/Matrix for details on that. And a big happy tax day to everybody, which I think is tomorrow as we record, so it's the day after. Oh, God. Doesn't matter for me. I'm delaying that thing. Oof,
Yes.
oof. But getting an extension, let me tell you what. Links to what we talked about today at coder.show/514. If you want to send an email into the show, our contact page is coder.show/contact, and our RSS feed is coder.show/RSS. Let's put that right there and get it directly, or go to coder.show/subscribe for the easy links. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Coda Radio program. I'll see you right back here next week.
Inappropriate?